real close. So, and I might point out real quickly, just, well, a few things, but just off to your left, just above the surface side of the Border Swath there on the north side is a campground in there. So it's kind of a popular spot for people to just paddle this far down the lake. We're about 4 miles, 7 kilometers down the lake, and just spend the night out in the backcountry. Easy act. And you can see what running water is doing to the landscape now. It's basically filling in the lakes. The nature of the rock is, again, not, as I mentioned, not really resistant to erosion. And when those creeks and rivers during the month of June, which is our highest, so we get our most precipitation is in the month of June, and with runoff from the snow in the backcountry, those creeks just overflow their banks, carry a lot more rocks and sediment. But when it hits the level of this lake, it just drops it right there, and that's why you see that kind of built-up shoreline. So anywhere you see that around the lake, kind of a shoreline built up, you can look for running water or running water. Shooting water 50 feet, even higher in a lot of places. And they had about 3 days to saturate all the vegetation and the foliage there. And fortunately, of course, they had a nice big lake to draw water from. And that was probably the biggest thing that they had going for them, we'll say. They had big diesel pumps right on the shoreline with 8-inch diameter intake hoses. And again, had that time. And then on the afternoon of September 11th, kind of in our minds of us older folks anyway. On the afternoon and the evening of September 11th, the winds picked up to about 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles per hour, which is common in this area. And that jumped the Continental Divide, actually came down right through Cameron Lake area. And the area burned. They saved the structures up there. So all around it all burned. And it moved down the valley here towards the town site, and actually jumped the next valley to the north, the Red Rock Parkway. If you've driven up there, or you'll see more of the aftermath of that fire. And within about 12 to 18 hours, it moved down here on the side of Mount Bertha, down where you saw the extent of the fire, how far south it moved. And then it moved north out onto the prairies once it got past the town site. And at that point, once it got out of the mountains per se, it was basically just a grass fire. But again, with all that aspen parkland.
Guys, देखिए कितना सुंदर व्यू है.
Town site along the park entrance road. Again, you'll see evidence of that as you came into the park. So, and then it burned all the way. It burned 70% of the forested area in Waterton Lakes National Park. And Waterton is really a pretty small national park, about 130,000 acres. And whereas Glacier Park, where we just had visited, is over 1 million square acres. So Waterton is a much smaller park. So the fire burned actually past the park boundary, and there were 6 families on the north side of the boundary. The prairies that lost everything. They didn't lose any lives, I should say that. No lives were lost, no one was injured in this whole episode of the fire. And they lost all their ahead of us